rise for our national anthem. Well, good afternoon, and welcome to our spring concert. We're so glad that you've chosen to join us for this afternoon's entertainment. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines entertainment as amusement or diversion provided especially by performers or something diverting or engaging, such as a public performance. Our sincere hope is that you will be entertained this afternoon. Community bands have been providing entertainment for nearly 200 years. Not us, we've been around for, what is it, 47 now? Although some of us feel like we're about that old, I guess. And one of the most popular genres for community bands continues to be the march. So we thought it would be good to begin our program with a military march. Today's opening selection was based on a bugle call designed to rally the troops to the flag. To the Colors was written by John Edmondson and serves as a fitting prelude to our national anthem. And thank you for joining us in singing Francis Scott Key's historic lyrics to the Star-Spangled Banner. The poem was inspired by the Battle for Fort McHenry during the War of 1812. The music for this piece was actually written for another type of entertainment. It was set to the tune of a popular drinking song back in the day. The title was To an Anacreon in Heaven, and it was written by John Stafford Smith. But the words and the lyrics, or the lyrics and the tune were put together shortly after the lyrics were written, and then it was adopted as our national anthem in 1931. Just in case you didn't know, we are the Camden Community Concert Band. Our director is Mr. Glenn Price, and we're an all-volunteer organization comprised of musicians from all walks of life who live and work right here in Kershaw County and the surrounding communities. Some of our musicians are students, some are retired. We have teachers, business owners, engineers, computer technicians, and nurses, just to name a few. Some of our members are former band directors, some played in college, and quite a few are former high school players who picked up their instrument after long years of disuse, cleaned them up, oiled the valves, and started trying to remember their scales and warm-up exercises. The one thing that we all share is our love of music and our desire to serve the community. If that sounds like you, then please consider joining us. At this point, I'd like to add that if you're just finishing high school or college, you don't have to wait 40 years to join us. We would love for you to continue your musical journey by joining us now while you still remember how to play. And let me add that if you prefer to use the instrument you were born with, your voice, let me add that if you prefer to use the instrument, if you prefer singing, then I want you to consider the Kershaw County Community Choir. They meet on Monday evenings at 6:30 at Bethesda Presbyterian Church, and they will be presenting their spring concert at Bethesda on May 30th at 4 p.m. So you're welcome in either group, or if you really want to punish yourself, you can try to do both. And since we're just talking about high school, that brings to mind another type of entertainment, high school football. that gives us an opportunity to recognize our local high schools with the playing of their fight songs. All three fight songs can be found in Paul Yoder's 1951 publication, College Songs for School Bands. Over time, each one has been rearranged and adapted to meet the changing needs of the respective bands. We'll be playing the most recent arrangements currently in use by each school. In the 1960s, Camden High School adopted Gordon Erickson's 1929 composition, Wave the Flag, as their official fight song. Mr. William Finnegan is the current director of bands at Camden High School, and unfortunately he was not able to be here this afternoon, but never fear. Here to direct is Mr. Robert Wirtz, who was the director of bands at Camden High School from 1976 to 2004, and now serves as our associate director. Please welcome Mr. Robert Wirtz for the Camden High School fight song.
See if I can remember how this goes.
Mr. Wirtz. And although his name does not appear in the program in the trombone section, he is playing. He tried to get out of it, and I said he could not announce his name. So, Lugano High School opened its doors in 1971. The new school selected Paul Yoder's upbeat march arrangement of the U.S. Naval Academy's alma mater, Navy Blue and Gold, as their fight song. Here to direct the band is Mr. Travis Kelly, the current director of bands at Lugano High School. Travis? At this time, before we move on to North Central, we want to take just a pause, a moment, to announce this year's recipient of the Camden Community Concert Band Scholarship.
Thank you. Good to see everybody. Really good to see everybody. In April of 1980, gosh, 46 years ago, last month, this band met for the first time in the old Camden Middle School band room. There were only two of us here, from here, now, today, that were there that night. Mary Eddings, raise your hand. And myself. location because in that band room, it was right across the street, there was a column right in the middle of the band room. And I was playing that night, and I remember I spent the whole night going, Mr. Pat Wiley, William Patrick Wiley, was the founder of this band. And after Mr. Wiley passed away, the board of directors decided we were going to start a memorial scholarship in his name. This is our 4th memorial scholarship we've given. And it just means so much. I know it would have meant so much to Pat also, and I'm sure it does. Our recipient this year, before we play the North Central fight song, is a member of the North Central High School Band. His director is just an incredible musician, and he is too. And he's going to be going to Newberry College next year, and many of you might have met him in the lobby out there. Please let me welcome, and you welcome, Mr. Daniel Shout. Daniel, it gives me a lot of pleasure in memory of Mr. Wiley to present you with this check for Newberry College. It's an expensive school. You'll do a great job. He's a wonderful musician. And I know that Mr. Martin is very proud of him. And congratulations and best of luck to you. Thank you, buddy. Now let me introduce. Are you playing? Okay. He's going to play the snare drum part on the North Central fight song. And this will probably be the last time you do this. Take your place back there.
I think no better way to honor Daniel than by playing his fight song. The Silver Knights adopted the Notre Dame Victory March, written by brothers Michael and John Shea, who attended Notre Dame, as their fight song in 2007. The current director of bands there is Mr. Liam Martin. And Liam, if you would lead us. Thank you, Liam. And we'll see him back in just a little bit. Musical theater, make sure I'm in the right place here. Yes, musical theater emerged as a specific genre and a popular form of entertainment in the 1800s. It's grown to become very influential in many popular music styles. In 1949, Jerome Robbins began working on a contemporary musical adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. After collaborating with several different partners, the team of Robbins, Bernstein, and Sondheim finally came together in 1955. And 2 years later, West Side Story opened on Broadway. It ran for 732 performances and was nominated for 6 Tony Awards. In 1961, the musical was adapted for the big screen and was nominated for 11 Academy Awards. Early in the first act, Tony, our Romeo, meets Maria, our Juliet, and it's love at first sight. Tony speaks her name once, and the song begins. For the music theorists out there, the song opens with a recitative. That's a line that is more spoken than sung. The most beautiful word I've ever heard is what Tony says. This arrangement picks up after the recitative with the key change at the beginning of the aria. The tessitura of the aria rises slowly over 2 octaves. Bernstein composed the piece in Lydian mode and made heavy use of the tritone throughout the song. Now, I'm sure all of you followed that. But really, all you need to know is that it is a beautiful expression of young love. Maria, by Leonard Bernstein, arranged for band by Eric Osterling. Music of the Night is probably the most recognizable song from Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera. But what many people don't realize is that the music was actually composed before Webber and Charles Hart began working on Phantom. Sarah Brightman declared at a London Royal Albert Hall concert in 1997 that the song was originally written by Andrew Lloyd Webber for her after they first met. That version had different lyrics and was called Married Man. The lyrics were later rewritten and the song was added to the Phantom of the Opera. Perhaps one of the reasons the song was not released with the original lyrics was that at the time, Webber was married to someone else, and the song might not have worked in his favor during the divorce proceedings. To add even more controversy to the history of the piece, the family of Giacomo Puccini sued Webber, claiming that he had used a recurring melody from one of Puccini's operas in the composition. The party settled out of court, and the details have never been revealed. For those of us who may not be familiar with the musical, it's based on the novel by Gaston Leroux. It tells the tragic story of beautiful soprano Christine, who becomes the obsession of a mysterious and disfigured musical genius living in the subterranean labyrinth beneath the Paris Opera House. The Phantom lures her to his lair beneath the Opera House. He seduces Christine with his music of the night, his voice putting her into a type of trance. He sings of his unspoken love for her and urges her to forget the world and life she knew before. Slowly, gently, night unfurls its splendor. Grasp it, sense it, tremulous and tender. Turn your face away from the garish light of day. Turn your thoughts away from cold, unfeeling light and listen to the music of the night. this piece, I need to prepare you. Mr. Gene Camden was supposed to be our conductor for this, but his latest grandchild was just born, so he's off playing granddaddy today. Instead, we have Mr. Price, who we are all praying for right now, and we welcome you to join us in that. When author Victor Hugo put pen to paper to write Les Miserables, he had more than just entertainment on his mind. In a letter to his Italian publisher, he used these words to describe his ambitions for his 1862 novel. I don't know whether it will be read by everyone, but it is meant for everyone. It addresses England as well as Spain, Italy as well as France, Germany as well as Ireland, and the republics that harbor slaves as well as empires that have serfs. Social problems go beyond frontiers. Humankind's wounds, those huge swords that litter the world, do not stop at the blue and red lines drawn on maps. Wherever men go in ignorance or despair, wherever women sell themselves for bread, wherever children lack a book to learn from or a warm hearth, Les Miserables knocks at the door and says, "Open up. I am here for you." He had high hopes for the influence his book might have on society and the human spirit. And the book has endured and has been hailed as one of the half-dozen greatest novels of the world. In 1980, the story was adapted into a stage musical with music by Claude Michel Schönberg. The French production was translated into English and opened on Broadway in 1987. The musical adaptations are true to Hugo's intent. They are a call to all mankind to rise up against injustice and to move us all to a world where hope is accessible to all. The musical was adapted for the big screen and released in 2012, and Jay Bocook has arranged Look Down, At the End of the Day, I Dreamed a Dream, Master of the House, Suddenly, and Do You Hear the People Sing into this wonderful medley of highlights. Please welcome Glenn Price as we present soundtrack highlights from Les Miserables. composition at Harvard University. While at Harvard, he and his roommate, Damien Chazelle, entertained the locals in an indie pop band called Chester French. Isn't that interesting? What does it mean, though? Their experiences led to the screenplay for their 2016 film, La La Land. The movie musical was not only a box office success, grossing $447 million during its initial run, but is one of the most nominated and award-winning films of all time. Hurwitz's score won numerous awards from the British Academy Film Awards, the Golden Globes, and the Academy Awards. This Michael Brown arrangement begins with Another Day and Mia and Sebastian's theme, and concludes with a Best Original Song winner, City of Stars, and a Best Original Song nominee, Audition, The Fools Who Dream. We hope you enjoy these highlights from La La Land. Although filmmakers and actors often seem to be trying to make themselves out to be politically and culturally important, any power or influence that they have stems from the entertainment value they provide. Our next selection honors 50 years of Hollywood entertainment, spanning from the 1930s to the 1980s. Thanks for the Memory, from the big broadcast of 1938. The theme from Star Trek, the motion picture. Moon River, from Breakfast at Tiffany's. Never on Sunday, actually not from Hollywood, but from a Greek film. Over the Rainbow, from The Wizard of Oz, and Raiders March, from Raiders of the Lost Ark, have been brought together in an eclectic but very entertaining medley by Warren Barker. Please welcome back to the podium Mr. Liam Martin as we present Hollywood. In September of 1990, Ken Burns' epic documentary, The Civil War, aired on PBS. Although it was certainly entertaining, it cannot be classified as pure entertainment. Every aspect of the production was meticulously researched and verified. This attention to detail led to some misconceptions about our next selection. The haunting melody, often played by an unaccompanied violin, became the unacknowledged theme for the production, since it was played 25 times for a total airtime of 59 minutes and 33 seconds. Most listeners assumed that the song was from the Civil War era. It was, in fact, the only modern song in the entire 11-hour production. Ken Burns heard the song in 1984 before he even began trying to raise funds for the production. Ashokan Farewell was composed by Jay Unger in 1982, and he describes it as a song coming out of a sense of loss and longing after the annual Ashokan music and dance camps in the New York Catskill Mountains ended. The composition is in the style of a Scottish lament and certainly conveys the sense of loss and longing of the composer. The lyrics are a call to remember the music, the dancing, and the connection experienced during the camps. As we near the end of our afternoon together, it may be good for us to acknowledge the power of music, not only to entertain, but to connect us. Under the moon, the mountains lie sleeping. Over the lake, the stars shine. They wonder if you and I will be keeping the magic and music or leave them behind. Ashokan Farewell. forms of entertainment was the circus. There's quite a bit of debate as to when the first circus was held. Some say it dates back to the Greeks or the Romans. We're fairly sure that the modern circus concept can be attributed to Philip Astley in about 1768. But the show that Astley developed is fading from the mainstream. The days of the touring three-ring big top are all but a memory. A big part of the touring circus was the music. Every touring circus had a band that provided live music for the performers, and much of that music was in the form of a march. What better way to end today's entertainment than with a tribute to the greatest show on earth, the circus? It's been said that Carl King did for the circus march what John Philip Sousa did for the military march. So it's with great pride that we close our concert just as we opened it, with a march. Laura Schissel's arrangement of Circus Days.